Hi guys, so I thought I would do a video. Now I will tell you I am not by any means a professional sewer or even a good sewer. So with that being said, I wanted to do a video to kind of show you guys what I made. I had gone on YouTube and I really hadn't seen any tutorials on how to actually make one of these. All I saw was lots of tutorials of people that were basically shoving a jelly cover inside of a cover uncover and calling that a DIY jelly cover. Okay, so it is a hack and that is a cool way, easy way to do it, but I wanted to know how to do it from scratch with my own cover, and so I just dove right in and I did it. And so now, since I didn't find any tutorials, I thought I would do one for you guys. I do apologize for the lighting. Again, it's overcast here again. So this one was definitely a work in progress. I did this type, I'm not even sure what kind of stitching this is, but I did this like crisscross almost stitching, and as you can see it's too wide, and so it leaves quite a gap at the bottom. So I'm gonna do another one showing you guys how to do it, but instead I'm gonna do a single stitch and hopefully, you know, anybody else that has a sewing machine, some thread, and buy some jelly covers on Etsy, which I will link where to get those below. Then you can literally make your own cover from scratch without having a cover on cover for pretty much any book that will meet the height. So to start, these are the things that I have that make it easier for me. So I have a cutting mat, and as you can see, it's a pretty much full yard cutting mat. I also have an edge ruler, but you don't need these things. You can use a regular ruler, you can use a small cutting mat, whatever works for you. I'm also using these Fisker roller blade cutter. Okay, then I did have, and you know, having a Sharpie, having your jelly sheet. Obviously you need your sewing machine with some thread, and I also got a corner rounder. Now, unless yours is like super sharp, you're not going to be able to actually cut all the way through. But what I did was I used this as a guide to know like how I wanted my corners, and then I cut it with this, and I'll show you how I do all of that. So the video is going to be in parts because it's going to be really tough for me to videotape absolutely everything as I do it, but I'll kind of put everything together at the end so that you guys can see exactly how I did it. Okay, so to start, this is a B6 stalogy, and I did it this way, and it actually came out fairly well as far as this kind of measurement. So this is a full-size piece on the top here, okay, and you know, like I said, I used that stitching that was a little bit bigger. So let's take this out, and I'm just gonna set my stalogy on top of my jelly paper so you can see. So this is a full-size jelly sheet that I got from an Etsy store, and you can see, like when I fold it over, there's, you know, this much room on the top on both sides, okay? So what my goal was when I did the last one, and I just really didn't think about how the stitching was gonna be so wide, was I want to get it as close, and this is a darker jelly so it's harder to see, but I want to get it as close to the book as possible all the way around. So that's basically what I use this for. So I'm gonna mark this off on the inside, or on the outside of it, just so that I can kind of give myself some guidelines on where I need to sew it. And then when the whole thing is done, I'm gonna trim it up, and hopefully it'll be a lot closer to the book this time than it was when I did it before. Okay, so let me get the stuff and I will mark that. So with my stalogy, I'm figuring if I cut this at about 12 inches and it's about 13, then I'll have plenty of overhang, and I can just kind of set my presser foot for, you know, a certain position, and then just sew straight down. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this jelly sheet at 12 inches. And let me flip it, because since it sort of naturally curls, it's a little bit easier to do it. And I'm sorry, I'm holding my camera, so this isn't gonna be the best quality video because it's really tough to do. So with this, it's nice because I can line up one edge on the 12 and then I go to the top and I make sure that that top edge is on the 12, and it pretty much is right there. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and cut that at the 12-inch. Okay, so I cut this at the 12-inch mark. As you can see, I literally just went straight up. I'm sorry, I can't hold the phone and do it one-handed. So so there you go. So that's the 12 inches that I need for my cover. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is that when you purchase this stuff, it comes with a film, which I probably will not be able to get off one-handed. Oh, maybe I will. So you can see, or you can hear it, that there is literally a film covering on the jelly sheet. So just make sure you take that off before you go ahead and start sewing, or else you're gonna have that on your jelly sheet. Okay, so now back to flipping it to the inside. So now you will see that I still have overhang, but it's not tons and tons. And so my goal, like I said, is going to be to sew, you know, towards the closest edge of this book. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my Sharpie and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mark this direction and this direction on all four corners so that I have an idea of where it is I need to sew. So let me do that as well. Okay, so as you can see, all I did was put little tick marks with my marker so that I knew roughly where I want to keep my line with my book. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut pockets for the inside so that I can basically sew pockets in here so that the stalogy has a pocket to slide into. So I have some leftover, let me grab it, some leftover clear. I only have one of these pink jelly sheets, but I do have some of this leftover clear stuff from the last one that I made. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this leftover stuff to cut my pockets. So let's go ahead and move this stuff out of the way. Now, let me grab this one. So, what I did for this one was 3-inch pockets, and that one worked really well. Now, the only thing I have to bear in mind is that when I'm finished with this one, I will be cutting the edge. So I'm probably gonna do a little bit more than I'm gonna cut a little bit more than 3 inches because I need that. Okay, so as you can see, I have just over 7 inches left. So instead of having that little piece, I'm just gonna cut it a little bit more than 3.5, so that basically I have almost an even amount on each side. So that's how I'm gonna do that. So I will go ahead and cut this piece and then we'll be ready to sew. Okay, so I cut those 2 pockets and I made sure to take the film off of both of them. So now we are ready to put everything together and to go ahead and sew it up. So I am gonna take my jelly pocket, and then what I do is I just lay these on top. Now, oops, actually I need to get my clips. So I will show you how I keep it together since I can't really like pin it together. I have another way that I've done it so that I know that they stay together. This was something that I neglected to mention. So these are the like mini clips. And these work really good to just kind of clamp the edge to make sure that you're keeping everything together. So what I do is, and I just do 3 of them, I clip the edge all the way on one side. I don't do it on the side that I'm gonna sew first. So first I will sew this edge and then I will sew this edge. So basically I sew this one first and I just kind of hold it, and then I'll sew down and over, making sure that at the beginning and at the end that I backstitch both of them. So as you can see, I lined up my needle with my black mark, or else pretty close, and then I basically just figure out where I need to stay on the presser foot, and I just kind of stay in line with that, and I'm just gonna come all the way around and just keep going until I get to the edge. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and start sewing, and then I'm gonna do a back stitch just to make sure that that stays nice and closed. And that's where I'm gonna stop, and then I lift up my presser foot and I just spin it. And I'm gonna take these out. And I'll leave that one in. So now I'm basically just picking another line. I have different lines that, if you can see here, that are lined up. And I'm just gonna basically try and keep this on that same line as I go down. I find it's easier to focus on that line versus what I'm physically sewing, or else my line gets a little wonky. And I'm gonna take this out. And this one as well. All right, and then we'll just finish this side up. You do kind of have to push and pull at the same time with this material, I'm finding. Lifting up my presser foot. Now, and you can see, I mean, I'm not the best sewer. It definitely did go a little wonky on this side. One thing I'm gonna do really quick is I'm gonna get my book because I wanna be 100% sure that everything's gonna fit. So for me, I learned this the hard way with the first one that I did. Because this line ended up being in a little bit too much, the line that I marked for here is too far in, so this book wouldn't have fit. So that was good that I checked it, because had I not, then it wouldn't have fit in on this side. So I'm gonna go ahead and instead I'm gonna sew a little bit above it just so that I know for sure that this is gonna fit. So I'm gonna go down just a little bit more with this one. Just a couple stitches. Okay, then I will spin it. And let's see, let me check it again. Nope, still have to go more. That's okay. It's a work in progress. It's a matter of trying not to go too fast. Okay, now spin it. It's hard to see it until you're really like there. There, that'll work. So then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stitch all the way down, and then I'm gonna back stitch back here. Let me turn this up a little bit. So I slowed it down to do that. Ooh, too much. There we go. And then back stitch. And everybody's sewing machine's different on how their machine back stitches. But there is the first one. So let's just double check. Let me move this so you guys are in frame. Then just double check and oh yeah, that fits good. And it looks like I'm still gonna have lots of room for the back when I sew this back side, so that'll be good. The only thing I am noticing is that, and you can see, this line will be fine, this first black line here, but this one, let me move this. This one is a little off, so I'm gonna have to go out a little bit more when I do it. And same with this one. I'll just kind of have to move those guides a little bit so that it fits. But I'm gonna keep my book here to make it easier for me, so I can do that. So then I just kind of look at This side probably looks better. So let's test the book. And there you go. So now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna go back to the cutting board and we're gonna trim off some of the excess. Okay, so the goal here is to trim off some of this excess to clean it up a little bit. So let me move some stuff. All right. So it really just depends on how much you want cut off. And I think I'll go ahead and take the book out to make it easier. All right, now let's get this in frame. So what I'm gonna do is, it's maybe a little hard for you guys to see, but the sewing line is right here. I'm gonna move that line behind one of these yellow lines here so that I can trim it. Sorry, there go my dogs being crazy. My son just came in, so they went nuts. All right. Just want to make sure that that's completely behind that line, and then I'm gonna line up my bottom and top just as I did before. Let's see. So close, it's hard to do without getting right in the video. Okay. So, and then I'm just using my roller blade, pushing down pretty firmly because this stuff is tough to cut, and going slow. And looks like I got most of it. So there's one edge. And flip it and we'll do the other edge. I'm gonna do the same exact thing. So I just use these lines as my guide to make sure I am cutting a straight line. And the same thing, pushing down firmly. So I have trimmed the side edges. I still need to trim the top a little bit, but the next thing that I usually do after I trim that top is I go ahead and make my template for my corner round. So what I do is I use a corner rounder and I literally just squeeze it until it makes an impression, which is almost impossible to see. Let's see. Yeah, you really can't see it, but just until it makes an impression, and then I basically come and cut that impression corner with my blade. And then that is it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask below. Like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.